Family businesses are a huge part of the economy, and when it's personal, failure is not an option. This is the Architects of Business, Joe's weekly series of interviews with leading entrepreneurs in partnership with EY Entrepreneur of the Year. I'm Ty Genwright, and today I'll be speaking with Caroline Keeling, who's grown to the top of her near century-old family fruit business. Caroline Keeling, thank you very much for coming in and being with us. I mean, this business has been in your family for your whole lifetime. What's it like kind of growing up in a business like that?
It was great fun. As kids, we all worked in the family business, picking fruit. By the time I was 14, I got to go into the office. And it was great learning, I have to say. You got to do jobs. So basically, I used to cover for the ladies who worked in the offices on their summer holidays. So it was great fun, and I got paid for it.
Yeah, nice little side.
Absolutely.
Nice little side number.
We were very lucky as kids. What work we did, we got paid for. Probably brought out the capitalist in us, but it worked well.
Is it good for kids though? I mean, would you have been better off playing hopscotch or whatever on your summer holidays?
I have to say, I think it was good for me anyway. I think I learned a lot as a kid, and I think it gave a level of responsibility, understanding jobs needed to be done and completed at a young age. And
did you kind of share in the stresses that inevitably come with running a business at that stage? You know, did you see kind of tough days for your parents or whoever, when things didn't go quite right?
No, sadly, Dad would have protected us from all of that. We would have just known the area we were working in.
So they shielded you from
totally.
That.
I do remember one day though being in the middle of two of the members of staff having a big row. I was about 14, so this guy called Les was called, and Dad was asking me how my day was, and I remember going, it was okay, but I know I never want Les's job. I don't know what Les does, but I don't want that job.
It looks stressful. Yeah. So did you always think that you would end up heading into the family business?
No, I suppose it never really occurred to me growing up that I would go into the family business. You didn't see any other women in business when I was 8, 9, 10. In the food industry, there weren't a lot of women leading businesses, etc. So it didn't really occur to me when I was younger. So I went to college. I was going to college to study physics. I ended up studying chemistry, and then went to work in the food industry after doing a master's in food science.
So that's an interesting one, because you were a girl at the time,
yes,
growing into a woman, you assumed that there wouldn't be a place for you in the family business, and yeah, you ended up in the food industry.
Yeah, I suppose when I was 10, the world was a lot different than when I was 20, and even when I was 25. So when I was 10, looking at it, it was a different landscape, and the changes that made in that time sort of opened the doors for a lot of people. So when I was 10, it didn't seem like there was that many opportunities.
It's interesting, really, because you might have thought that, even back then, when there wasn't as much of a place in business for women, that within a family business is where women with talent could flourish.
And to be fair, I did, and I got that opportunity. I think my parents were very good in that they didn't insist in any way, shape or form that we were going to go into the business. My brothers and myself were given absolute choice as to what we wanted to do. And I personally, for me anyway, I think that makes it nicer. I know I'm in the business out of choice, because I want to be, because I love it, not because I felt an obligation or a duty to.
So you decided back then to go to college and study, what was it again, chemistry first or physics first?
I did science in UCD, thinking I would major in physics. I hadn't done chemistry before and just loved it, and ended up doing chemistry, and then I did a master's in food science. Okay,
so what was it led you in that direction? Just loving being in the lab at school? Or?
Yeah, I like science, maths and science and those kind of subjects, and I think I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, so I think the idea was study what you enjoy. And that's kind of what I did. I think maybe deep down I really wanted to go work in Cadbury's in a chocolate factory. But I sort of decided I did like the food industry, and at that stage there was more opportunities coming out in the early 90s.
So your education led you into the food industry again, having, I suppose, done the university in life as a child in the business. But I suppose when you're in business, do you ever stop learning about the world and learning about yourself?
No, I think that's the critical thing. And I think if you want to improve all the time and improve what you do, you have to keep looking at yourself and learning about yourself. One thing I learned when I was 24 on a business trip, there was a guy there who was an expert on dyslexia who told me I was dyslexic. And I was kind of going, yeah, somebody said that to me before. Unfortunately, I have no idea why they made it such a difficult to spell word, so it's hard for me to look up in the first place, and I certainly can't spell it. But I did look up and found out a little bit more about it, and yeah, I'm mildly dyslexic.
So you only realised that at 24?
Yeah. Now, we knew I wasn't very good at spelling, but look, my mum was a Montessori teacher, so she taught me to read very early. So any challenges I had, we worked through, and I was well able to read. I just got words backwards and etc. and numbers backwards only once in the business.
A number backwards?
I put it the wrong way round, and it wasn't in our favour. So I haven't done that since. I'm very cautious about that. But I think the one thing I learned about dyslexia was, yes, there's some challenges to it in the way your brain works and the way your brain sees things, but there's also some great benefits to it. I think everybody has it impact them slightly differently. With mine, there's a level of creativity and seeing things differently that I think is part of dyslexia that has helped me. It certainly helped me land a deal once in New Zealand, because there was a guy I met, his son had just been diagnosed, he was only about 6, and I met them, and his son had his shoes on the wrong feet. And the guy was concerned, and I was, no, he just needs to learn the trick. So with dyslexia, there's certain things that are a little bit more difficult. So you put the shoes together, and they have to make an arch. So if they don't make an arch, they're the wrong.
And that's how you manage it.
Exactly. So you can't tell them to just pick up the left and the right. It just doesn't work that way. So anyway, we went through that. That was fine. This was a guy I've been trying to get apples from for years. No chance. Strangely enough, that season we got apples.
Wow, how'd you like them apples?
They were good.
And do you see that kind of, you were talking about the creativity. Is that just you, or is that in other people that you've met who also have dyslexia?
I think so. Like if you look at an awful lot of people who, entrepreneurs, I think there's possibly a slightly higher percentage of entrepreneurs who have mild to strong dyslexia. I know a couple in the EY group.
Wow. And you think it's definitely a kind of, I suppose it can hold you back in school if it's not diagnosed.
Yes, absolutely. And look, I was lucky, I was very mild. So yes, I was told I was an idiot and couldn't spell, but other than that, I managed reasonably well.
And you had the confidence to overcome that. But when it comes to having those big ideas.
Yes. And it's sort of, I think there's a creativity or a different way of thinking that can be harnessed. So I do think it's worth looking at. If you have dyslexia, there's some challenges, but there's potentially some opportunities in it. Heading back into food science, did it feel a little bit like, oh, this is a bit predictable, isn't it? Like, the family business is food, and here I am going into it. Yeah, I have to say I didn't really have that plan doing it. I just did it because I really enjoyed it. I have to say I've had 2 exams in my life where I had difficult choices. My history exams, because I loved history and I had to choose my favourite questions. And the food science, the master's exam, was the first time in a long, long time that I remember sitting looking, oh my God, I can do them all, because I enjoyed it. I was studying it and really enjoyed the course. So
tell me about the early years then of your professional career. You've got your food science masters under your belt.
And I went to work for Green Isle, which was a great company, really enjoyed it. It got loads of projects. The people were fantastic. My boss, a lady called Caroline Keeling, was just so supportive, and I learned an awful lot from her. So really enjoyed it, and they offered me a promotion into the department that I wanted and a pay rise after about 18 months. So I came home all excited, and Dad suggested that, well, there was an opening in the business. They needed the technical quality skills that I had, and asked would I join. So I sort of said in my head, well, I'd join for 2 years, do that, and then probably move on to another technical role.
And it's interesting that because you're only with Green Isle for 18 months before Dad tried to bring you back into the fold.
Now, to be fair, there was a good business reason at that time. There was an opportunity opened up in the UK, and there was they needed somebody with my skills.
But was there any part of you that kind of wondered, I've done this by myself, I've got the Green Isle job, they're giving me a promotion, and why would I take the kind of the almost predictable path?
I suppose I just thought, well, look, I'll learn a bit about the business, I'll find out about it. If I enjoy it, I enjoy it. If I don't, I'll leave. And to be fair, I'll do the 2 years, get that piece of work done. I wouldn't leave it undone.
Come on, there must be some party that realise that a family business is kind of like Hotel California. You can check in, but you can never leave.
You can, or you should be able to. Because I do think that's part of it. It can't be who you are. It can't be everything about who you are. Because family businesses have to evolve all the time. They can't stay the same. And it is a big challenge with a family business that's around for a long time. There's some brilliant stuff, but how do you bring in new thinking? So we're always trying to learn and bring in new thinking. So keep what's really good about ourselves, but continually improve.
How many generations is the family business going now?
I'm the third.
You're the third.
Yeah.
And is there a degree, whenever it comes to that new thinking and new ideas, that you could be tearing up some great idea that your grandparents or your great grandparents had,
or my dad,
or your dad had.
Still there.
Is there any sense of kind of like, I can't do that because Dad wouldn't like it that way? I mean, I'm sure it's the right decision for this moment in time.
Yeah.
But a sense that
no. And to be fair, I'll tear up my own. Something I thought was brilliant 10 years ago. No, it's no longer the right thing to be doing. We need to move on.
Was there ever anything that you changed that you kind of felt a sense of a pang of guilt about?
I do remember we chopped down some trees that my grandfather planted, but they were going to be a danger, so we needed to chop them down.
Yeah.
And you sort of felt a bit of history was being chopped down, and occasionally with parts of buildings that you're taking down to evolve and build the next thing, you're kind of taking down a little piece of history.
A little bit of legacy.
Yes. Yeah.
But developing the legacy, I guess, for the future.
That's the plan.
What's it like within a family business that to work alongside people who are not part of the family? Is there kind of a tension or a kind of a different kind of set of feelings?
Rules and things. I think one thing we try to do is all of our senior people have to have a say. You can't come into work on a Monday morning and feel that we discussed it on Sunday lunch and the decision is no longer up for discussion. So the key is the key people in our business, in their roles, they have to make the decisions around what's happening. Like nearly any other business. So we have to run it like a professional business.
And as someone who carries the surname, do you kind of feel like you need to prove yourself even more? That says, something, I'm making this decision, or I'm getting this job, and it's not just because I'm a Keeling.
Yeah, I suppose I remember, I'd say I was probably only 3 weeks in the company, and I had a meeting with one of our big clients who sat down opposite me and said, right, so what qualifies you for this role other than your second name? You do get that challenge, and I love when that challenge is to your face, because at least you can answer it.
Well, at least they're saying it to your face. I mean, what did you say? What did you say?
Well, I said, look, I have a master's in the area. I've experience. I've done this before. So my plan is to roll it out and use the team and use the expertise. And look, I have to be judged by my performance. And I think one of the key things with all of your business decisions is to try and, for want of a better term, take as much emotion. You might have a gut feel for stuff, which I still think you need to listen to, but you need to make the right decision for the business. Yeah.
Is there, a part of you that sometimes, do you ever wonder if somebody else would be better for the job?
Yeah, I'd only taken over in 2006. And when 2008 hit, for numerous reasons, we were not in a great place. And I did think about it then. But I really felt that I had the vision to get us to the far side of this. And what I needed to do was focus on making myself better. If I hadn't made myself better, I probably couldn't have taken us to the far side. But I really worked hard on making myself better in not just my knowledge and experience, but also focusing on being fit, looking after myself, all that kind of stuff as well. So being at my best to enable me to do my best performance.
And I guess the difference between you and somebody who doesn't carry the surname Keeling is that for you it's personal.
Yeah.
And there's a pride, there's a family pride there, and
Yeah.
you know, an outsider could come in for a while and just kind of walk away if it doesn't quite work out.
True, but I would be that type of person that if I took responsibility for something, I take it quite seriously.
Yes, of course. So talk to me about those difficulties you had back in 2008, like the rest of the world has.
Yeah.
You know, what were they, and what was your vision to get through them?
I think, you know, we had to evolve as a business. And we had to change some of the things we were doing. We had to get more cost effective. And one of the challenges you have is you have a lot of families who depend on you being successful. So if we lost pieces of business, jobs would have been lost. So that kind of adds the pressure. And the one thing we did, we set up a program called Stepping Up, which we presented out to everybody in the business going, I can't solve this. The senior team can't solve this. Only we can solve this. Everybody has to be engaged in how Keelings steps up to the challenge of this environment. And I have to say the team within the entire business was amazing as to how they stepped up.
So are we talking about people coming forward with ideas that perhaps wouldn't have occurred to the senior management?
But also how you work, to take real accountability for what you do and how you do it. And knowing that we have to get more cost effective. So you can see waste where I can't. I'm up in an office sometimes, or I'm off at a meeting.
Yeah.
You're there, you can see what's going on, make the change.
And I guess that responsibility you feel to those families who depend on you is probably born out of the fact that, you know, it's you've grown up in that same North Dublin community.
Yeah.
They're all living around you, and you can see the impact of people losing jobs.
Exactly. And you know, we'll go through phases in the economy where you're full employment, where we have an unemployment issue, and those cycles will occur. And I do think it's part of family businesses do take it quite seriously, their role in employing people.
So you're in the business of selling berries to a large part, not exclusively, but it's a big part of your business. And it's what I suppose most Irish people know you for, seeing your name in the fruit sections in supermarkets. It must be good to be a good time to be in the business of superfoods.
Yes, yeah. And it's great. I mean, for want of a better term, if we're successful and we sell more, we kind of think people are going to be healthier. Yeah. So it's brilliant to be in that kind of product area, where the more of our product you eat, we believe the healthier you'll be. But
did you see any kind of a distinct uptick in sales around the time people started talking about blueberries as having, you know, superpower qualities?
I think there's been a lot of conversation for a long time. I do think branding works, and I think our team who drive that communication, I think it helps. I think we try to talk about it and to get it out in conversation a little bit more. And I think by having the brand, it helps that. So it's a challenge always to try and get the best quality product. And I think that's the key thing for us, is we're constantly looking for how we can make the product better.
You know, the business has grown an awful lot recently, hasn't it? I mean, talk to me about the pace or the timing of that growth, and how much of it has happened, I suppose, under your watch.
Well, I think we've done a number of different things. So we've sort of gone in and out of the UK a little bit. So we've got a business there which we're very happy with. We're investing in production outside of Ireland as well. So I just signed off today. We're partners in a melon farm in Brazil.
Wow. Just
this
today?
Morning, just signed the
breaking news exclusive.
The quota holders agreement, I believe that's what it's called in Brazil. And we also have a farm in Costa Rica as well with a partner that we grow. So we're looking at expanding how we grow product outside of Ireland as well. And we also have an office in Rungis in France. So if you go to a lot of the retailers in France, the Carrefours, etc., you can see Keelings branded pineapples.
And it's your brand as well, because I
Yeah.
mean I wasn't terribly aware actually before looking into you that your reach was quite so wide. I mean, just set me straight here, will you, about just how big a deal Keelings is.
No, it's still a family business, and it's a produce business where I think we've high turnover and low margins. So I think that's the food industry a little bit, and we're reasonably strong in the UK, and we're trying to build up in Europe, starting in the French market. Now we do a little bit into the other countries, but it's mainly in the French market.
You talk about, dabbling in the UK, as it were. Have there been some kind of moments there where you got your hands burned?
Yeah, we've tried different things. Some worked, some didn't. We tried prepared foods that didn't work for us. So there's a number of things that we try, we learn. You might decide, right, 5 years' time, it might be the right time. Remember everything you've learned, and you go back in fully armed with the knowledge, etc. And look, every business, if you're going to do stuff, you're going to make some mistakes.
Yeah, and how do you pick yourself up from those mistakes? Or how does it feel after you've realised actually that wasn't the right call?
You just got to get on with it and make some good calls afterwards. And sometimes the good call is cut it quick.
Cut it quick.
You tried it and move on. You can't beat yourself up over every wrong decision. You beat yourself up over keeping it too long.
Yeah. Do you think is that a mistake that some entrepreneurs make? Is that they maybe dwell too much on mistakes without just moving on?
I think you need to learn. And it's hard. It's hard when you put your neck on the line and you haven't been successful in that one. So you do need a level of resilience in order to pick yourself up and get back out there.
And innovation, because I mean, you're also kind of, I'm not quite sure how to describe this, is it selling your know-how, selling your systems, as it were, to other producers? Would you want to explain that for us?
Yeah, so we wrote the ERP system to manage a produce company.
ERP system?
ERP, so it's an enterprise resource planning system. So it's basically a system that will organise everything from your ordering of your stock, transport in, packing it, taking it from a box, putting it into a bag, keeping traceability, all that kind of stuff, quality management, all your sales. I'm obsessed with everybody having the right data to do their job. Because particularly in our industry, when I started in the commercial side, so I took over a business and I'm starting to look for the numbers, and you're constantly getting told, we lost money a week ago because we packed lemons this way instead of that. And you said, but you needed to know last Tuesday when it was happening, not the following Monday. And that's what our system does, is it gives you the live information as and when you need it, and it gives it to the right people. Because to be fair, I don't need to know.
What's the take-up been on that?
We've literally just finished it within our own business. So we have 2 reference sites already that we started up.
Reference sites be effectively buyers.
Third parties, yeah. So we have 2 people in Holland and a third person in China.
Wow.
So we actually have a person in China using it. But we're going to focus on the Dutch market, and we have a target over the next 12 months to sign up ideally 4 companies. So we're in talks with them, so fingers crossed they'll come off.
So how long have you been at the helm now, in the top job?
Since 2006.
Okay, well that's quite an innings.
So it is a while.
Yeah. And when you go home, or when you have your Sunday lunch on a Sunday with the whole family, assuming you do, I mean, do you ever kind of look at your dad and see misty eyes of pride when he looks at what his little girl has achieved running the shop, as it were?
No, I can see him thinking, she really should be doing this. I don't know why she's not focusing on that part.
So there's still a lively kind of, shall we say, debate about strategy.
Which is good. You should have that. That's of value.
So Caroline, there still really aren't that many women running businesses of the scale and in a way that you are. I mean, does that bother you personally?
I do think we do need to encourage and enable more women to run companies. I think in the interest of fairness and in the interest of the economy. I think we're missing out if we don't have more women. I think a study in the UK, there are more male CEOs called either David or John than there are female CEOs.
Are things improving though? Can you see it?
Very slowly in the data. I feel it in our company, and I know I always look at the top 100 in our company from a salary point of view, etc. And you can see it growing in our company, but not necessarily fast enough.
Do you think, are you a believer in shall we say, positive discrimination, quotas, whatever it takes, making really active decisions that put women to the fore?
I think so, but I think if we don't resolve the reasons why that's happening, I think it won't help as much as it should. So I think we really need to understand the reasons why it's happening. It's not just because somebody's sitting in an interview and going, I'm going to give it to the man. It's much more complex than that, and there's more work to be done. So the government launched a programme recently about better balance in business. And I think we're a member of the 30% Club. And I think, over the next 5 or 6 years, I think we do need to push to make it a more level playing field, but to understand the reasons why. Yeah,
because I guess sometimes the reasons why are shall we say, not conscious. 100%. Some people are kind of like, shall we say, actively misogynist or sexist, and other people might be just, shall we say, passively or unintentionally so.
And to be fair, if you did bias testing on a lot of women, if we were raised with those biases, we have them. And, we mightn't intellectually believe in them, but you have biases.
Do you think, is it still the case, and it's often been said that some women, talking of unintended biases, simply don't put themselves forward in the same way that men have the confidence to?
And that probably is the case in some scenarios. So I think there's a mix of different things and different supports out there. So I think if we sit back and do nothing, things won't change, or they'll change as slowly. I think they said it was going to take, I can't remember, it was well over 100 years to get to a level of equality. So I think rather than wait that 100 years, I'd rather be part of it. Can I do a little bit to help speed it up?
Have there been times where you kind of felt like obstacles were put in your way because you're a woman?
I've had both positive and negative discrimination because of being a woman. For want of a better term, I know when I've gone to an event on occasion, I've stood out a lot more solely by being a woman. I get, I think once I turned up at a food dinner that the Minister for Agriculture was holding years ago. And Keelings were a tiny little business seated at the back until I turned up, because I was the only woman, and as the only woman in the room I had to sit beside the minister.
That got you attention. Very good.
So I think it was Kerry got moved aside.
Do you feel though a responsibility, I suppose, as a woman leader to promote other, the concept of women leadership, either through networks or whatever, even through things like the Entrepreneur of the Year scheme? Yeah,
and I have to say the community there is fantastic, and it's a fantastic network. It is one of the things that they say women don't use the network quite as much as men do. It's again another one of the things, but I have to say the EY network is fantastic, and you learn an awful lot both in the program but also from the other people. And you have a network of people you can pick up the phone to who, if have been through what you're about to go through, you can have a conversation with them. So it is a fantastic program.
I mean, obviously it's a global program, and you're operating on a global basis, and I guess different cultures are moving at different speeds.
Yes.
Have you seen any of the kind of the slower speeds, as it were?
Yeah, like I come back to Ireland a lot going, God, I'm quite happy that I'm Irish and that I live in Ireland. I've had I've turned up in one place and the guys just out of shock went, but you are a woman. And loads of others. But look, within half an hour, usually, you get down to business, and I'm able to hold a good conversation.
Where was that? And did he get over it, as it were?
Absolutely, he did get over it, but in a very strange way, because there were 3 of them, and it wasn't until we were out in the yard, and I looked down because they were all looking at my foot, and they stuck back a little bit, and I sort of looked down at my foot mid-question, and I'd stood on the leg of a very large spider.
Oh.
And normally I don't mind spiders at all. I don't even need to escort them from the house. I'm quite happy to share my space with them. And
maybe this was a hot country and it was a big spider.
Very hot country, very big spider, and from their reaction, very poisonous spider, which I did find out later it was. So instead of I sort of thought, oh, I can't take my foot off and let it off, it might bite me or something. So I did very stomp on it. And after that, they were yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, 3 bags full, ma'am. So
wow.
I would not normally stand on a spider, but
wow. Whatever you
in that circumstances, I thought it was going to bite me.
It was you or it. So I think you made the right choice.
That kind of lifted me up in their estimation a little bit. So we got on fine from there.
I mean, do you think... Do schools prepare girls enough or in the right way for are they breaking the stigma, breaking the stereotypes, or helping to or hindering?
Well, the fact that they're segregated, I don't think helps. So an awful lot of our schools are still segregated. So I'm not sure.
Did you go to a segregated school?
Absolutely, yeah. I think my mum thinks I would have tried harder if I was slightly competitive. They say girls do better in a single-sex school, potentially in exams, but I think you learn more by interacting with each other and etc. So, it's something that I think schools can only do so much, and part of school is just what you do every day, and if what you do every day is segregated, you don't get to learn about the other. They become a little bit more different.
But also, I mean, it's to do with what teachers are telling you to strive for. And if your teachers aren't telling you to, encouraging you to think about business or careers that might be perceived as more traditionally male.
Yes, like I know in my school at the time, I was advised when I said I was going to college, my career guidance teacher, I was really hoping you'd become a nurse. And I was kind of going, what gave you the impression I'd be a good nurse? And she went, I could see you controlling the doctors.
Right, okay.
So,
and that's what women with leadership qualities back then were supposed to strive for.
Potentially. I think things have changed a lot now.
Okay, well, thankfully indeed. You're now running a very substantial fruit company. I'm not sure why we have so many fruit companies in this country, but fair enough, we do. What's it like kind of running a global company from this island?
It's great. I have to say, I think Irish people export very well. I think we operate in different cultures very well. I've been to probably about 40 or 50 different countries doing some level of business, and we're received well. And I think from looking with my team, we interact with other cultures quite well. I think it's having an Irish passport, they say, is a very good thing, and that's been my experience travelling around the world.
But what about, I suppose, the framework that exists here to help businesses?
Yeah.
I mean, so much of this economy, and we see it in the news headlines around the world, is kind of caught up in big multinationals that come here and set up, big premises and hire lots of people for we were told, a bright, talented workforce. Cynics might argue it's because of tax. Is there as much of a focus on fostering homegrown businesses? Yeah,
I do think Enterprise Ireland does a good job in that area. And I think a number of the funds and the supports that have come out recently with Brexit, because I think Brexit is quite a challenge for a lot of companies and a lot of Irish companies. I think EI does a very good job on supports there. And there is good networks around the world. So when I was doing some business in China, I have to say EI, Board BIA and, the Department of Foreign Affairs were all excellent in supporting what you wanted to do. Other countries you don't need as much support, but where you do need the support, I've actually been at a brilliant event by Board BIA in London and got to network with some people I probably wouldn't have gotten to network without that support. So I think we do a good job to help companies export. There's a challenge I've sort of put to the government about family businesses. I'm not sure we have a strategy. I think we have a very good strategy for SMEs and, everything from the startup to scaling. It's a challenge, and I do think the government is focused on that. There isn't as much of a strategy around family businesses. Countries like Germany would have a strategy around supporting and making sure that family businesses, it's in their interest and best interest to stay in the business for a long time.
What's missing from the Irish strategy, or from the,
I think a strategy.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know,
But what do you need, as it were? What does the strategy need to be?
I do think things like a tax structure for how family businesses, how, you invest your capital in a business or you leave your capital in. You don't want people to be significantly financially better off by selling.
Right, okay.
And that can be what happens. And particularly as you go down through the generations and there's more and more shareholders. Is there a strategy? Because if you looked at 100 years ago, the strategy was it went to the eldest son.
Right, yeah.
Things have changed, so you need...
But join the dots for us. Why is that in the kind of the national interest as opposed to the interest of the individual families that own these businesses?
I think a little bit around, if you look at during the recession, and particularly there was a good bit of studies done in Germany around that, family businesses tend to retain employment, if not grow slightly, whereas a lot of the independent multinationals shrank their workforce considerably. So I think there was a small study done in Ireland and the same shown, but I'm not sure if it's statistically significant.
So it's about, I suppose, commitment to the country, as it were.
Exactly. So if you have an Indigenous family business, they tend, if you look on the average, to contribute more to the local economy.
And to stick around and to make it work instead of cutting
times.
And running when the proverbial hits the fan.
Exactly. So I do think there's a vision that could be put out there. Look, there's 1,001 things the government have to do. So I think what EI is doing is excellent. And I've certainly benefited from some of the training that they've done.
Okay, good stuff. In terms of training, you as a leader, what do you think are your kind of own... I suppose we covered your strengths. What are your weaknesses? And give me the juicy stuff.
It's not that I'm a perfectionist. Look, everybody has them. I probably like to be a bit of a control freak. And that's probably where the ERP system came from. In some ways, I like to understand and know everything and be involved in everything. And if you're running a business our size, I have to learn how to delegate and delegate properly.
That's not necessarily a weakness.
It's a challenge if you want to grow.
Right.
So as an entrepreneur, you need to decide, do you want to control everything and keep the business this size? Or are you comfortable to let stuff go to brilliant people and let them do it? And frequently they can do it better than you can anyway.
Well, what are those bits that you actually quite like to delegate? The bits where you kind of think, something, I'm not great at this and I need some help.
I suppose my CFO and myself work really, really well together. And where, he's brilliant with pulling out all the numbers I need. He understands me at this stage. So he understands, when we look at a business challenge, we tend to divide and conquer, ourselves. We said, you do that bit, I do that bit, you do that bit, you do that bit. And it's really, really efficient and effective of getting through stuff. So I do think everybody needs that. And different people will do different things in that. I'm lucky my CFO and myself work really well together like that.
I mean, I guess there's so many strands to business, and especially in an agricultural business such as your own. There's the art of growing, there's the science and all that goes around it, marketing and numbers. Yes. Is it numbers where maybe you kind of, is your least favourite part of the pie?
Well, I love them, but I don't love preparing them.
Right.
So I always look at them with a fresh pair of eyes because I know what I want. I know the information I want to see. I'm really clear on that. And with every business, like if you talk to somebody who knows their business in every aspect, there's numbers that drive it. So that, for want of a better term, if it's costing you more than 42 cents to run a case through the building, you're going to lose money. Or whatever it might be. So everybody needs to know the numbers that drive their business to make money.
So as a family business that's very much rooted in North Dublin as yours is, I guess you have that real sense of strong community there. But what about the kind of the national community that you now serve as a national company?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've really enjoyed being part of is SEI, Social Entrepreneurs Ireland, because I think it really taps into an area where I really enjoy supporting other business people coming up. But in this area, they're basically setting up a business to deal with the social issue. So, for example, look at Men's Sheds or Food Cloud. Both came through SEI Ireland. So the idea is to support people who've set up this business, who have a great idea, but maybe don't always have the business skills or the resources to develop it.
Or maybe it's not necessarily going to be terribly profitable from the start.
No, and they need support. And it may never be massively profitable, but it's to take them from that startup stage to show, look, we can have this level of impact, and therefore can we get other businesses or government funding to come in and support it where they have a proven case. And I think that's one area that entrepreneurs can really help, because these are social entrepreneurs. They really haven't driven a business maybe by themselves before, and this is where we can help them really drive it.
Okay. True enough. So it's often, so you were talking there earlier about, family businesses, their commitment to, a country, or commitments to remaining a family business. It's also said, statistics show that actually the more generations you go down, the more likely it is that the family business will no longer be a family business.
I think it's only 3% that survive into the fourth generation.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I'm supposed to be spending it all. I'm supposed to be having loads of fun.
So are you confounding that statistic, do you think?
I don't know, because I don't know what will happen into the next generation. We're doing well, third generation, because there's only a small enough percentage that survive well in third. So I'm hoping it survives well in third generation, and then we'll see about the fourth generation. Again, there's quite good things. They could be just shareholders. They could be involved. Who knows? There
must come a point, though, I suppose, when you get into subsequent generations and it's no longer husbands and wives or brothers and sisters, and it becomes second and third cousins trying to work together. And inevitably, there's a little bit of it just no longer feels as tied together.
Yeah, but I have to say Musgraves are a fantastic example of one that has managed to hold together a large group of shareholders, and they do it exceptionally well. It's not easy. They put a lot of work into doing it, but it just shows how effective it can be if you put that work in.
Do you think, though, that you guys anyway will still be a family business in 10 or 20 years' time?
Probably. You'd say that's the plan.
Do you hope so?
Yeah, because I have to say I love the business, so I love being part of it. It probably does add to it by being a family member, absolutely. But I think the team we have there, both family and non-family, are amazing, and they all really believe in what we're trying to do. So when you've got people who work for what they believe in, it's a great place to work.
And that's the business, but what about you? Because you said whenever you took the job in the first place, you were saying, right, I'll try this for a couple of years and I'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Is this it now for you?
I don't, no. I mean, even if I take on another career at 70, because I do need to leave them to do what they need to do, I don't know when I'll move on to my next thing, but the key is that the business is in a better place 5 years after I leave it. That would be a good sign of success, that it would be in a better place 5 years after I'm left than when I left it. Because if I leave it and it falls down, I wouldn't be happy with that.
Caroline Keeling, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lovely to talk to you.
Good talking to you. Thanks.
And that's it for the Architects of Business this week. Thanks very much for joining us. Thanks too to our guest, Caroline Keeling, our producer, Patrick Hohey, and all of the team here at JOE. Our programme is made in partnership with EY Entrepreneur of the Year. Go to their website, JOE.ie, to learn more about the finalists for this year. And don't miss out on past or future editions of the Architects of Business by subscribing for free on iTunes, on your favourite Android podcast app, or you can watch the show on YouTube. While you're at it, check out some of JOE's other podcasts, including the Hard Yards on rugby, the GAA Hour, and our movie show, The Big Review Ski. I'm Ty Genright. Thanks again for being with us today, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.